What's up, Chris? It's Tuesday.
New Government Tuesday, Jay.
New Government Tuesday.
That'll
New IRS Commissioner Tuesday.
Wait! Don't spoil the news. Welcome, everyone, to the Practice Playbook, the show where we help firm owners and wannabe firm owners navigate the road for their modern firms. I am Chris Geno. One of these ways, I think it was, nope, that one is Jay Kimelman, and we're the hosts of your show. Last week, we started the conversation around marketing. We chatted around the values of niching, around content marketing, and the importance of social proof. Oh gosh, Jay, what did I do wrong?
You did absolutely nothing wrong. I was testing something, and about 10 seconds into what you were saying, and you're saying, I'm Chris, and he's Jay, about that time, I heard you talking in my other ear because the stream was open. I'm like, crap! So I was making sure it's set up correctly and left it open. I never do that. So, nice. Yeah. So, sorry about that. Sorry to get in the middle of the flow there.
That's all good. Remember, social proof. That's also what we talked about last week. This is show number 2 of our 2-part set, where we're going to talk a little more deeply about a few different topics. Specifically today, we're going to talk about leveraging automation and AI, some of our favorite topics, which maybe we could probably do like episodes and episodes on.
Which we may do episodes and episodes on.
Which we probably will eventually do episodes and episodes on. We're going to talk about some considerations around SEO, the effects and value of paid advertising or paid marketing, that kind of thing. And then also the importance of humanizing your brand. But before that, as I joked about, let's get to the news. Poor Danny Warfel, I think. I'm not really sure. I don't know if he'd even want to be around. Probably just as well. He can probably go retire or whatever. But bye, Danny. So Danny Warfel, the IRS commissioner, last week he resigned as we led into this new administration. Probably just as well for him, because in my estimation, Jay, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. There was like a 99% chance he was going to get fired if he didn't resign. It's kind of my expectation.
Oh yeah, the new IRS commissioner. We discussed him earlier. He was the congressman that left Congress to open up the ERC mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he was going anyway, but he wasn't waiting around.
That's right. So good job by you, Danny. Way to get out while the getting out was good, I guess. Maybe it was a bad idea. Maybe you could have got that severance check or something like that. If they fired you or kicked you out or whatever, or I don't know how that works in the IRS, but who knows? Who knows? In other IRS news, just yesterday, the president-elect has issued a governmental hiring freeze. Like that, but the IRS specifically was earmarked out and got an even longer freeze. So all of the extra people that were at the IRS last year, don't count on them being there this time. Unless they're already there, which I'm not holding my breath on that one. Guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. Jay. I mean, I don't think there's any question that you and I agree that this particular thing is probably a pretty bad strategy. I understand the value and making sure your costs are right and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we talked throughout the last year around the value of those extra folks at the IRS and how that was impacting tax professionals and accountants and everybody, clients and everything, right? And so that they're doing this hiring freeze. My expectation is that it's going to make call volumes or your hold times a little bit longer, your resolution time period a little bit longer. Although we'll talk a little more about that. And I guess we'll just see. It's possible that all the folks that needed to be there are already there. But if our recent experience, Jay, based on what I've heard you talk about, if our recent experience is anything like what it's going to be going forward, it's probably not great.
Yeah. So last week I actually called the practitioner priority line and got through pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I will talk about this later when we're done with the news. We'll get into a little IRS issue here, but I did not quite get my situation solved last week, and
Okay, yeah, sure.
basically I was trying to get some information about it, and typical IRS got cut off 25 minutes into the call. They got to stick you on a 5 to 7 minute hold, and at least I asked you, do you mind? I'm like, no, you put me on as many holds as you need. But after the third one, I got cut off. So the technology is getting better, but they still need to invest in that phone system. And so I have to make a few calls to the IRS later this week. So I'm interested to see, is it like a switch? And just like that, the wait times are going to be back. And, so we'll see how it happens. And I will let you all know how it goes.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear stories about people's wait times too. If you're watching and you're calling into the IRS, let us know how it's been for you. I would love to get that feedback. In the executive order spree, there was some continued conversation around opposition to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. That's a global tax organization that's working to try to cooperate and develop tax strategy across the globe. And the president-elect has identified that he doesn't really care for that. So maybe his External Revenue Service will try to replace it. I'm not really sure. Maybe it'll be ERS coin next or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I guess we'll find out there. And then
going back to the hiring freeze, I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Are they just going to move that budget over to the External Revenue Service instead?
Well, the hiring freeze was more broad than just the IRS. So
gotcha.
It's like a government-wide, except for it's your everybody except for critical personnel type deal.
Gotcha.
Where it's that type of freeze. It's just that most of them are like, again, most of it's a 90-day thing, but the IRS is particularly earmarked in of like not just 90 days. We're gonna keep them frozen. So yeah, maybe that's to fund the ERS. I guess we'll find out. For those of you who don't know, the president-elect Donald Trump also talked about an external revenue service, which is what we're making jokes about. Because come on, what are we doing here? There is also continued speculation. President Trump from wherever it was, the Capitol, or wherever he was signing all that paperwork, also made a speech, and in his speech he talked about removing tax from tips. So that's a campaign point that at least is coming up again. So we'll continue to follow that. There hasn't been any movement as far as I could tell. It was just a, hey, I hadn't forgot about this. You'll be so excited when we do this, that kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes as well. And in the we'll sees, they just keep coming, right? This was a big news day because of all of those executive orders and the conversation around the transition of government. And so also Donald Trump also has continued to threaten by February 1st a 25% tariff on all Canadian and Mexican imports. Now, Jay, we've talked a little bit about this previously, that we think this is you peacocking and whatever posturing to try to like get a better deal or find a better position, maybe to rename the Gulf or something like that in exchange for a tariff. I'm not really sure. But this is another one where it is a we'll see, right? You want your clients to be aware that this is a thing that can impact them, particularly if they're an importer of some capacity, right? But there's just a lot of uncertainty in exactly how this is going to work and whether this is actually going to happen or I mean something's going to happen, but we just don't know to what level and what degree. So that's a continued story there. Now it was funny to me, Jay, and this is the last news article, so I'm skipping a couple to go back. It seems like nobody knows what's going on, or nobody knows what the effects of all these things are going to be, because current Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, she said that the Trump tax cuts, if we extend them, are probably going to make the market riotous and like a big problem. But then the incoming Treasury Secretary, David, I think his name is David Bessent, he says we have to do this, otherwise the market is going to collapse. And so it seems like seems like nobody really knows what's going to happen, and there's just like direct opposition in the people that are Treasury secretaries. Like these are the people that lead that
Yeah.
department that oversees the IRS, and they're just neither of them seem to they couldn't be farther apart. So so yet another like we'll see what actually happens here.
And the internet and social is rampant with all of these rumors too, and it's like
Right.
I think I was telling you earlier today. I went on first post of the day, and basically with 11 screenshots of tax proposals, and they were all taking away tax cuts, except for the cutting of the C corp rate to 20 and then 15%. And that would be the only thing that would be costing the Treasury. Everything else were cuts that were being taken away. And basically I said, give me some background on this. Send me the link. Where did you get this? I want to vet this information. But I'm thinking, we had the executive orders on immigration yesterday. We're expecting to hear about some immigration enforcement. And late last week, over the weekend, they're talking about, okay, what's the cost of this deportation effort? Well, are they looking at cutting these tax cuts to pay for that? So here we're going to have tax cuts and tax takebacks.
Yeah.
So we shall see. And just like the last 12 months, we have nothing to tell us truly what's going on.
No idea. No one, even the people in power have no idea. That's clear. That's clear. Well,
they have an idea, but they're not talking about it. I mean, it's all in Elon Musk's head because he's got to keep things moving efficiently.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
We shall see.
Speaking of keeping things moving efficiently, though, great transition here. The final IRS news is that the IRS is testing a faster dispute resolution. So not sure how that's going to work with less folks over there, but hey, that's great. I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. I've heard horror stories around disputes and the length of them. So getting those things figured out and moving forward faster seems like a fantastic thing.
Yeah, you could end disputes pretty quickly. Denied.
That is a really good point, I guess. Is that the IRS could just be rubber stamping the nose on there, but I guess we'll find out. That doesn't seem in the spirit of what we've come to expect. But who knows? Who knows what will happen again? Another we'll see, right?
We shall see.
Then the final we shall see. Maybe I should have called this IRS and tax we shall sees instead of the IRS and tax news here. This one's not specifically around not really around taxes, actually. It's just a thing I wanted to pick your brain on, Jay. There's been some conversation around a strategic Bitcoin reserve because of all of the nature of Bitcoin generally, and all of the people that have been supporting the president and all of that as well. I read an article that opposed this Bitcoin reserve and thought that was a really, really bad idea. But Jay, I'm just curious, do you think that, number one, I feel like this isn't happening for a while, if anything. But number two, do you have any interest in a strategic Bitcoin reserve?
Is that so when Bitcoin starts going up in price, they can release more and bring the cost down? I mean, come on. What are we making a reserve for?
Yeah, I don't know. Make a Bitcoin change.
I have not read the article yet, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. But, I mean, it's almost as ludicrous as the External Revenue Service. I mean...
Yeah. It's a wild time to be alive, Jay. And can you imagine how exciting the IRS and tax news is going to keep getting? That's the IRS and tax news for this week. In other, more broad accounting news... in the acquisition and financing corner, there was a bunch of boring acquisitions this week. Nothing that perked my interest all that much. But I did see that KPMG is starting to add law. They're they're wanting to be a law firm here in Texas, actually. So they've been going through some hoops or whatnot to be registered as a law firm. So in the continued expansion of accounting firms into advisory and all kinds of different areas, KPMG is branching out past accounting and accounting advisory into law. So exciting to see that, I think, but that also speaks to the size of some of these big four entities, that they can just fund a law practice right there in their accounting firm, because that is they're really, really, really big.
Is that because they want to do the BOI report and they are afraid of practicing law without a license?
I didn't see the why. I didn't read the why in the article. I just saw that it was happening.
Yeah.
I bet it's not that though. As you know. In my former employer, RSM, they got on the audit quality board train. They finally, I guess, fired up one of these. We've talked about several of them here previously. So they're just following course here, obviously, with all of the pushback and commentary around the PCAOB. This is a thing that a lot of big firms have been doing. So RSM is just doing that as well. It wouldn't be news without the SEC and the PCAOB, Jay. So not shockingly, actually, this is extremely boring SEC news. The chief accountant of the SEC is retiring. That's Paul Muntner, I believe is his name. I don't know what he does, or what the chief accountant is, if they're like the rulemaker, or if they're just like literally the guy who like oversees the finances. But he's retiring. And kind of funnily, the office of the chief accountant has posted an application for professional accounting fellowship. So if you're out there and you're interested in working for the SEC, you have an opportunity to be a professional accounting fellow right there in the chief accountant's office of the SEC. So of course it wouldn't be an episode without the mention of the SEC, and there you go. Now, the PCAOB, right, just because it really wouldn't be an episode without a mention of the PCAOB, they released a participant bulletin. I can't remember what they're called, but like when their staff like says, hey, here's some things to watch out for, and it highlights problems with the audits of journal entries. And so, Jay, I don't know if you know much about this, but there's specific audit guidance around auditing journal entries. And people do it wrong or like really badly a lot, and that is very, very par for the course. Some of the things that often get missed is that people don't validate the completeness of the ledger schedule that they're using to run these tests. People don't understand the controls around journal entries, so they haven't done the full conversation of like how do journal entries posed, who's responsible for them, the whole like control cycle there. There are lots of different ways that you can get in the bad graces of the PCAOB by mucking up your journal entry testing. But they have highlighted some of those for you in a handy dandy PDF. So if you're an auditor and you want to know some of these areas where they've highlighted, take a look out there in space.
I just downloaded it. Thank you very much. Now I have my insomnia cure for the week.
Yeah, you can digitally delete that whenever you're ready. If you want to digitally delete something else, the AICPA actually has updated their practice aid related to digital assets. This is for accounting for digital assets, right? NFTs, your Bitcoin, all of that kind of stuff. And obviously because that's a relatively new area of accounting, some of the accounting for it is a little bit more complex than you typically would expect. And so the AICPA has issued a practice aid to give a little bit of guidance around how to do that accounting, because it isn't just as straightforward as you would think it would be, right? This is an investment. You should account for it like an investment. It doesn't work like that. And there are a lot of complications and considerations that you have to make when your clients are accounting for digital assets of all different varieties. So if you do have clients that are doing that, take a look at that practice aid. There also are a variety of different resources out in the marketplace. I know I've talked to a couple different companies that specialize in the valuation of digital assets. And so there are some tools out there that you can use if you have that issue as well. And that, Jay, is the other accounting news. And then finally, the tech news. Again, most of the news this week was around Donald Trump and some of the stuff that was going on there. There was a little bit of tech-related news that I thought was interesting. Caseware, who we talked about before, when they integrated the lease crunch or whatever it was into their platform to help facilitate doing lease accounting right in the platform. They also bought an AI document manager called Extractly, which I think is really interesting. So Caseware just continues to try to be this robust tool that allows you to do kind of everything all in one place, which is par for the course on different tools that are out there. We've talked about that here on this show and on our Friday show, the e-commerce hour, because that's what's happening across the marketplaces just more broadly, right? Companies are acquiring partners or other types of entities that help them strategically to give you a more broad and more robust service offering. And Caseware looks to be really doing that. They actually also hired a new CEO, I think, who must be spearheading part of this project. So I thought that was interesting. Again, it's just a continuation of the all things in one place. Finally, the final piece of tech news: Deloitte, PayPal, and Bitwave, they are hosting an on-chain B2B payments event, which I think is really interesting because we've talked a lot on the e-commerce hour about the future of payments and how payments are going to happen. The idea that they'll be on-chain, so that they'll be built into a blockchain that's supported by entities, and that makes it more. I always think of it as like the Jurassic Park sap or whatever, because that's what I think of the blockchain as. Is it's just freezing something in time. That they're hosting an event that focuses directly on this means that we're not that far away from it being something that's really realistic. So be on the lookout for that, and you want to make sure that you understand what it means to have on-chain payments at all, and especially if you want to do them. Sorry, I think my wife connected to my music. So on-chain payments are a thing of the future, and they will be really relevant. So if that's not something that you have an understanding of, it's definitely something that you want to take the time to make yourself familiar with. And that, Jay, is the tech news. I just got a text from my wife. Sorry.
So, and just speaking of text, there's my kid going back and forth with me, and I said I'm busy and keeps sending me texts. So first day back at school.
Nice.
All right, but you missed the biggest tech news of the week.
Oh, did I? That feels bad to me.
The
probably did.
The most single-handed platform for tax advice was shut down and then restarted.
Oh my gosh,
over the weekend.
I forgot about this.
It was resurrected. It's back.
Yeah.
It's back for 90 days. Let's just calm down there.
Or at least
ByteDance says they're not selling it. They're not giving up the algorithm. Although I have heard that Zuckerberg has become very friendly with the folks at Oracle, who's hosting the American data for ByteDance. So speculation is that it was shut down for 14 hours and a transaction has happened. Has not happened. They have a 90-day reprieve, and we shall see what happens. Let that clock start again.
Yep, that's right.
So,
I know that was built into the law actually too. So,
right.
If you were really, really, really in the weeds, you already knew that was going to happen eventually.
Exactly.
So looks like, hey, Jay, more posturing from the president-elect here. I guess the president doing something or another. Interesting.
For sure. So that's out there, but we shall see. I mean, again, just like everything else, it's wait and see what happens. And speaking of waiting and seeing, You might
Yeah.
recognize, that right there.
Yeah,
That is a
forward.
letter from the IRS.
Yeah, it is. I do
And
recognize it, Jay.
and speaking of faster dispute resolution, I've had this issue going on. This is on a 2021 941.
Oh boy.
And
yeah.
this is regarding one of my companies where I paid my child in a sole proprietorship. And everything was followed correctly, and they computed what should have been the payroll taxes and said, this is wrong. You owe us this money. Well, this has been going on for 2 years now. And
Nice.
this letter basically says, please allow an additional 60 days for us to obtain the information we need to let you know the action we're taking.
Fascinating.
Another 60 days. So the funny thing is, I got this same letter in August of 2024.
So 60
So
more
that
days.
was only 5 months. 90 days.
Yeah.
5 months, 150 days.
Nice.
And this is what I was trying to call to get information on last week.
Oh, there you
What's
go.
going on here? I've been waiting. I want this resolved. Because
Right.
I have already gotten the collection letters have started again.
Oh man.
So it's like,
Come on, IRS, be better.
yeah, I mean, you're working on this. You paused the collection, and now we're moving forward with it again. So, yeah,
No.
it's like, let's get our act together.
Let's.
And yeah,
I'm counting on it, though, Jay.
no,
Hiring
not at all.
fees.
Not
We'll,
at all.
we'll see what happens. It might be a really exciting adventure over the next few years, but it'll be entertaining, especially if you're not having to deal with the IRS that much. So we'll see.
For sure.
Maybe we should just maybe we should title it the "We'll See News" or something instead of
For sure.
instead of
Yeah.
news. Anyhow.
And really, I mean, everything IRS related for the last 12 months is we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
We shall
yeah.
see.
It's just
So,
continuing
yeah.
continuing
For sure.
the 2024 trends right into 2025.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned last week, as we transition to our main topic today, marketing can be really hard. And so the purpose of today's episode is to dive into advanced strategies and tools to help you scale and optimize your marketing efforts. And that can happen in a lot of different ways. Again, we talked about a variety of different things that you can do last week. We talked about why you should consider niching, what that even really means. We talked about the different types of content that you can create, and the areas where you can drop that content, and we talked about the importance of social proof, how getting reviews can be really valuable to your brand, and how making yourself proving yourself to be an expert can be really effective through shows like ours.
And if you've missed that first episode, I'm going to post it over here, so you can go back and watch it. It'll be up over here.
Love it. Let's do it. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about some advanced tactics. We're going to talk about some ways to scale that kind of stuff, scale your marketing strategies, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start again with what Jay and I I think of this as like the basics of doing things in this modern environment, and that's leveraging automation and AI. If you're new to the show, you may have not heard some of the stories about how we've been working through these things already. But if you are not new to the show, it will come as no surprise that there are a variety of things that you can do using automation and AI to help you to market yourself. That comes in the form of using ChatGPT to help you with a blog post. That comes in the form of using something like Make.com to build out a different automation that allows you to do multiple layers and maybe post that blog on a couple different sites. And there are some CRM platforms out there that can help you to streamline both lead generation, client communications, like all of those different types of things. And one of the things that we will continue to highlight and point out to you is how valuable using these automations can be to your firm. If you're not doing that kind of automation, you're spending time doing things that you don't enjoy as much. I don't know about you, Jay, but writing a blog article or like recording shorts is maybe fun, but at the same time, like it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort, and it can be really duplicative. And so being able to take a video like this one, to splice out the relevant point that we want to make in a 30-second clip on whatever app is formerly known as TikTok or whatever comes next, right? Like that can be really powerful and can help free up your time. Jay, do you want to give an automation spiel?
Yeah, for sure. So you talk about blogs, and one of the most important part of the blog process is sharing the blog information so that people know what's out there. So you can go and push it up to WordPress, and there are tools within WordPress to share them. But I have actually developed an automation that it gets triggered from the posting on WordPress. It then pulls that blog down, puts it into ChatGPT. It then creates a basically summary of what that blog is and gives you the option to tell it what platforms you want to post your social content, what channels you want to post the social content, and then it will write that content for that channel in your voice and then give you the approval options, and then it'll let you post it automatically, or just shoot it out there automatically if you want. So that's one of those things that's going to save you a lot of time and keep you from having to do that. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and in this world of short form video, you're pushing up content on Instagram and on TikTok, and odds are you're posting the same content on both of them. And there's not as much automation on the engagement side on TikTok. You have to get in there and actually do some of that yourself. But if you're on Instagram and even Facebook, if you have those connected, you can set up a platform called ManyChat, which will allow you to prompt people to engage with you by just putting a single keyword in a comment or DM you with that word, and then it will automatically send that information back by getting them, instead of putting that content in your link or creating a link in bio link page for that. You're getting more engagement, which allows your post to get more attention. So it's having those automations in place, it's going to get you seen even more. So using those automations are really important. And like Chris said, being able to clip a long form video into short form and use tools to do that, it's win-win for everybody there.
Yeah, and so there are loads and loads of pro automation and AI things, right? We've talked about them several times here, and we'll continue to talk about them all through 2025, and I'm sure beyond. You do have to be aware, right? Some of the things that Jay was talking about are some roadblocks or some obstacles that you probably also want to make sure you have some good gut checks around, because you don't want that AI just posting willy-nilly, right? Of course, you want those things in your voice, but you want to make sure you have some kind of guardrail around the content that you're actually publishing, because you don't want it to just be, stolen from someone else, whatever it may be, right? And so there can be some cons around AI as well that you want to be thoughtful about as you look to implement that in your practice. Jay, do you have any other automation thoughts?
Even things like this video, we have automations behind it right now. I have it about halfway built out, but I'm working on doing further parts of it. So whatever you can do to keep you from having to do the manual tasks is going to help you achieve more. And if you have a way of getting your voice into the automations you're doing with whatever AI platform you're using, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT. There are so many other ones out there that are being sold now that are built on these as well. But if you can get your voice out there and get the things that sound like you, it will use the words that you use, and it will know what words you don't use, and be able to sound exactly like you. Something else. Other automations that are out there, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this afterwards, but basically short form video, or maybe medium-sized video, and doing faceless content about your products.
Oh yeah, sure.
And this came to me while I was interacting with ChatGPT voice in my car on the way to the golf course yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was asking it about my passion, as some of you may know, is NASCAR. And I was just messing around saying, hey, tell me what the major changes are in the driver lineups and their sponsors and crew chiefs for 2025. And it basically just boom, 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 and just read them out. I'm like, dude, I'm copy and pasting that and hooking it up to my voice and creating my own video. I don't know if the sources will get the video I need, but that's you mentioned later this week doing some of my NASCAR stuff. That's what's coming. So if I can automate the soundtrack of it using my own voice, heck yeah, I'm doing it.
That can go a long way, absolutely.
Yeah. So imagine that answering tax questions. I mean, really.
No, it's the future, right? And
For sure.
And so if you're not thinking about it or experimenting with it, you're going to be behind before too long. So be aware that that's a thing that can happen, and think about all the value that you can take from it if you're using it effectively. And now, if you make all this content and you want to share it with people, you can use your own social media platforms, but optimizing for search and local visibility can be really important. And so that's the second thing that we're going to talk about today. This search engine optimization, especially for accounting firms, can be really valuable. And when you think about accounting firms, especially like the historical type of accounting firms, that local search engine optimization is critical, because that's where you're building your business network. Oftentimes, those are the people that you're going to be connected to in your community. And so while that community may be more broad for virtual firms like ours, it can still be really important to make sure that the people that are looking for accountants or bookkeeping support or taxes or whatever it might be, that while they, of course, they're going to see QuickBooks and TurboTax and H&R Block or whatever, but that they also see you, right? And so being aware of that is a thing that people use to look for solutions. And understanding how to optimize your website and even your Google Business Profile page, like to optimize those things so that people can find you appropriately, it can go a really long way. Jay, do you have any experience doing that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been doing SEO for years. Yeah. And before I jump into that, I just want to say Friday on the e-commerce hour, we were talking about how Microsoft and Bing is jumping into this as well. Uh-huh. And the big player, as we all know, is Google, and it's the number one search engine in the world. And by chance, Chris, do you know who the number two search engine is?
Nope.
YouTube.
YouTube. That's also Google.
Yeah, exactly. So that is why Microsoft and Bing is making this large push, because they want to be relevant again. And they were pretty relevant back in the day, but Google is just that basically the two-headed monster now that's running search. And now that it's AI is using it, it's searching for everything. So I think that if you're going to start using Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT to do search on the internet, I think your SEO is going to become even more and more important. And if you ask the local questions, the browser itself, if you have search turned on, or location services turned on, we'll know where you're at. Your phones most probably will, but I am not sure if ChatGPT is using location. That's a great thing to test to see if it is or not. But by highlighting things like that, and let's not go and embed in a website like we used to every city in our local area. That I don't know if you knew that, Chris, but one of the tricks of SEO and back in the day was make your font the same color as your background and type in your keywords and put in the cities around you, and it helped with your search. Well, they've come a long way, and they can detect that, and it doesn't work. They want to read that keyword search in human readable text.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's come so far, and it's become long tail keywords. Like tax accountant for e-commerce business in Dallas, Texas.
Right.
So and that's what it's doing. So those SEO experts are still needed. So, but highly recommend.
Yeah.
If you're on Shopify or WordPress, whatever it is, get those SEO plugins and make it the best you can. And when you are creating your content and you're using AI to do it, that voice is going to help you with that, because it's going to write it in your voice, help it be more attracted to the search engines, and put those local, connotations in it. Orlando area, or Dallas, Texas, or Scottsdale, Arizona's best.
Right.
Things like that.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and Jay, you made a good point, but you didn't even mention it. But thinking about those keywords in the way that someone's going to do a search, so using like voice search optimization, right? Of how are you going to ask that question of finding the best accountant or finding the best bookkeeper, like making sure that you're being thoughtful of what that search looks like is how you can help to optimize your own portfolio. So I think those are definitely great tips. Jake, I'm so excited to hear your thoughts around paid advertising and partnerships. What do you think? What do you think about paid advertising and partnerships?
What do I know about that? I mean, come on. Pay-per-click has been around for a long time, and it is still a winning strategy. We know that there have been issues with Apple and Facebook and them going at it, and things. I think it was iOS 14 that actually made the shift, and people have been less likely to use meta advertising. But if you're doing it right, and people have found ways around it, and if you're using Google Ads, I mean, it still works. I mean, people are constantly copying ads and just reusing the same themes. But if you do it right, you could do it and get a reasonable rate. I mean, I'm not an ads expert by any way, but I have used it. But best thing I could do is reach out to somebody that is an ads expert and have them run it for me, because they are staying. And what you want to do is look for somebody that is on top of their game. They are understanding what is working today, what isn't working. It's just like the TikTok algorithm. What's working today might not be working tomorrow, and you need to find out how it's working and what it is picking up on. Same thing with your PPC ads, whether it's on Meta, if it's on TikTok, if it's on YouTube, or YouTube and Google. So highly recommend that. As far as the influencer side and partnerships, seeing it more and more. I mean, just in our space, in the accounting space, I've seen it with what is that company? I can't remember. I shared some of the ads with you, but they have a creative company talking about tax and
Oh, yeah, okay.
it's one of the online accounting companies. I can't remember their
Yep.
name.
I don't
It
remember
slips
what
me
you
right now. But it's like, you're doing it all wrong. You're giving bad advice, and honestly, they're like, if you're making $60,000, you too should have an S corp. And I used I don't remember the name. It's something.com. That's all I can tell you. But it's like, if your business is making, and sometimes these partnerships are good, sometimes they're not. When it comes to S selection, I probably wouldn't choose somebody to do that. I would take somebody from the firm that's authoritative and do that. One firm that comes to mind, it would be Acuity and Matthew May. Matthew
Yep.
May is all over their social, doing all kinds of fun stuff. But I think talking tax strategy, and just throwing out a number like 60, there's so much more involved in that. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. But other brands where you have user generated content, UGC is highly highly functional and highly successful.
Right.
And I am a Zero ambassador. I do zero content. So that might have been why you mentioned me like that. But yeah, so partnerships are really good, and especially if you have things that are complementary.
Right.
It works out really well, and it's win-win for both parties in that situation. So
Yeah, and I think those app providers and consultants like that have those synergies with you can be perfect for this, right? Because they, on top of being synergistic, right, and someone that you want to partner with from a business perspective, they also become a referral source because they can help you to manage and mine those leads that you may have, or even find some for you. So
well, the other side of that is it opens up audiences that you didn't
right.
have previously.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
if you have somebody that is an ads expert that is working with a content creator, or a copywriter. I mean, now you have two different audiences coming together, learning each other, and you're cross promoting, and you just doubled your exposure. So
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, and
Super valuable.
it's kind of like Intuit TurboTax weekend on the NFL.
That's right. That's right. Although I can't imagine any of the NFL owners or players using TurboTax. Probably doesn't fit them that well. I think their returns might be a pinch more complicated. But I guess that's another we'll see. And so the final thing that we wanted to talk about is humanizing your brand. And so we talked about social proof last week and how important it is to prove how effective, how good of advice you can give, how you're being the best advisor out there, right? Humanizing your brand also helps with this because it helps to make you more approachable and make you more engaging, right? And that can be through humor or through storytelling or even from behind the scenes content, right? Matt May actually, I think he recently just did a behind the scenes style video of a day of his that the Acuity offices were out of cherry Dr. Pepper or whatever it was that he was trying to get. So
I missed that one.
That was, I mean, it's memorable, right? Those behind the scenes types of things where you're being a regular person. It does help to make your firm approachable, and that can be really powerful because that helps to remove some of that potential friction that can happen when you don't know someone or you've never really heard of them. If you're telling interesting stories or if you're sharing interesting behind the scenes things, that those things can help to resonate with people more broadly. I've started putting polls out on LinkedIn to do this, right? That is part of it's not, I'm not trying to humanize myself. I feel pretty human anyway. I just think it's fun to engage with people, and I think it's I think especially since I haven't really used LinkedIn all that much, it makes that poll is now something that shows up in your feed if you're connected with me, right? So, and then I try to make them. Sometimes they're silly. I almost always try to include a ridiculous answer, and and I just think that those things can become interesting, right? That you get this opportunity to make yourself interesting, and Jay, I think it was I don't know if it was on this show or if it was on the other show where you talked about being in the pool, right? And if you're not standing out from everyone else in the pool, you're just part of the pool. But making yourself approachable, making yourself interesting, allows you to stand out from the rest of the pool.
For sure.
Jay, do you have speaking of storytelling, do you have any funny or interesting stories around humanizing yourself to your potential client base?
Well, I don't know about funny stories, but I mean some things that I would recommend. Like, we are recording this live.
That's right.
We do not edit this, and I think some of the best parts of it are the bloopers that we have. It's my daughter texting me and blowing up my phone, and Chris's dogs, and
my wife turned on the music today. That's so funny.
And one time, I'm sitting here and Callie, my dog, is just walking circles around me, wanting to get fed. I'm like, no, sit down. And I spent the last 40 minutes telling her to sit down, and it just it did not work. But I think imperfection shows your human side.
True. Absolutely.
And bloopers are always funny. Always funny. Always works.
Nothing like a Twitter typo. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Without an edit function, man, if you went back through my tweets, whoo, buddy, you got all kinds of hot messes in there somewhere.
For sure.
Absolutely. But Jay, you're right. Humanizing yourself and making yourself we're regular people, right?
Yep.
We just happen to be experts in accounting, and in advice around accounting, right? And so, I think that that's a really important message to deliver, especially if that's the brand that you want to portray, right? Of, hey, I can talk to you about anything because I'm just a regular person. I just happen to have this particular skill set.
And the other side of that is showing some of your personal side. Yep. I have in the past. There you go. I talk about NASCAR, which is my passion. Right. I in the past have posted pictures of my smoker and smoking briskets and ribs and all that fun stuff. Delicious. I post pictures of my pizza creations.
Yeah.
And I haven't as of late because, we're not in the competitive dance team anymore. But I have posted dance pictures and prop father pictures and all that fun stuff. So all of that adds to the humanization of the business, the business owner, the team behind it. So it all fits in there. Absolutely. The only thing that doesn't work is sitting on the sidelines. Get in there and post, type, tweet, talk, do it. Just get out there and do it.
That's right. That's right. And to make it easier for yourself, obviously, we'll run back through the things here, right? To make it easier for yourself, leverage AI and automation to make all of that typing, tweeting, texting, whatever it might be, a little bit easier on yourself. Make sure that people can find you by optimizing your search, and especially if you're a local firm, be focused on that local visibility. Consider paid advertising and partnerships to help to explore complementary clients. And then, of course, like we've just been talking about, make sure to humanize yourself. You can do that through all kinds of different ways, but like Jay said, and I think that's probably the message we should leave with here, the best way to do it is to try it. So I'd recommend you start with one thing, give it a shot. If you fail at it, maybe that wasn't the thing. Or if you fail at it, maybe you'll be that much more human. So don't sit on the sidelines. Make sure that you get out there and give it a try. And when you do, we'd love to see your comments about it. We'd love to hear about what you're doing, what you think is interesting, what you've tried in the past. And then, of course, tune in to us next week when we talk about whatever Donald Trump has come up with next. and all of the other accounting related topics that we'll talk about here on the Practice Playbook. Jay, any parting thoughts? Any automations of the week?
We talked plenty of automations there, and I'm actually working through the ones that we discussed. So I will have more there in coming weeks. But the only thing I want to say is, and this is a mantra I live by: now is better than perfect, because perfection will keep you from doing it forever. Because it'll never be perfect. So just do it. Just do it now. Don't worry about it.
Boom, and that's it. See you guys all next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Chop that up, put it on TikTok while you still can.
That's right.
Bye.